I'm doing a podcast right now. This is a yeah. You guys want to say hi
brilliant.
real quick? Hey guys, we're gonna say hi to our neighbors in New York.
Should say hi.
Uh, so
Hey.
we play this game called Klask, and I'm one of the professional players. So we're doing an interview. Klask, Klask. All right, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Disturbing the peace with some peace of mind. Sleeping in jeans, I'ma need a night. OD on the cheap.
What's up, everybody? This is Klask Pro. I'm David Bowie.
Woo woo.
I'm Chris Teacup Clinton.
And today we got a special guest. Kevin, why don't you introduce yourself?
Guys, I'm Kevin Reeder, or I go by Kev, just Kev. Inaugural Klask World Champion here, dilly-dallying around the streets of New York in my buddy's nice Lexus, so that we had time to do this. So we're just doing like a riding in cars with Klask Players edition. And I'm sorry for being late, guys, but I was in New York hanging out with some friends here, and they said, hey, in New York, everyone's late. No one's ever on time. So you got to go back and just tell the guys to forget about it.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. And then on the way back, I don't know if you guys can see, but I picked up this little Christmas tree because what the hell? Why not? We needed to create a about half of a mile. I missed my fucking turn. Damn. What's the thing on swearing though? Because that might happen a little bit today.
I think we're just going to join the regular Klask community and let things happen as they should.
Yeah, so just trying to create we got the Christmas tree back here, just trying to create a little scene, a little ambiance in the
Christmas
Dave, you
spirit.
got you got the class thing going on in the background. That looks nice. Chris, I can't really see. You're in the room there, so
we got a bunch of Klask boards. That's my decoration.
All right, so this is kind of like Zach Galifianakis between two ferns. This is called Klask, a Christmas tree in the back.
Yeah, that's almost the same thing. I should have used all these Klask boards and made a little Klask Christmas tree, but it didn't occur to me until just now. So next time.
All right. Yeah. Hey, I know. I know that was a long introduction, but thanks for having me, guys. I'm happy to be on the first episode of your podcast. I know this is like the second episode because you're like filming one for you guys, but that's also cool because, as you guys know, my favorite number is 2. There's a lot of big things with me, so I'm happy to be the number 2 podcast for you guys.
Yeah. No,
let's go off of that, Kevin. Sorry, Chris, if I interrupted you here. But when I first started playing Klask, I looked it up on YouTube just to see what's happening. I thought it was just a game board, right? Nothing about it.
Yep.
Loved it. I was hoping that maybe there was some type of local regional competition. Couldn't find it when I first started playing. But then slowly after that, I started seeing you on YouTube. I didn't know much about you at all. Saw that you had won a championship, and then fast forward to 2019, I met you at the 2019 U.S. Championship, and I still really don't know too much about you. And I think that this is a lot with the Klask community here in the U.S. and across the world, which is you're kind of this man of mystery, right? You're kind of the spokesman for Klask and huge personality.
I got my shirt here. Yeah, of course. We're repping the Klask shirt. My Klask beanie actually got stolen at a party. So, but hey, I guess someone else needed it more than me.
Yeah, what was her name?
I don't know what her name was. I wasn't leaving it at a Shorty's house. Teacup. Hey, speaking of teacups, I'll get into your question, but like Chris, what kind of cup you got at the house right now? Because I got a big cup right here. And you're the type of guy, if I know, is going to bring a little cup to a big cup party.
Look, a little bit larger cup and then extra large cup. I've learned a few things.
You see that, Bowie? He's overcompensating. He's
I have to when you're involved.
2 cups, yeah.
That's what it is.
So my backstory. What's I guess. I guess where do you guys want me to start? I mean, you said like in my involvement with the Klask community, or like my kind of like upbringing, or what? It's a broad could mean anything.
I mean, how'd you get involved in the Klask, man? Like, where did you find out about it?
So this is actually a really cool story. And the reason I like this story is because it just kind of goes to show that like anyone, anywhere can just like pick up Klask and go. If they, I mean, you got to put a little bit of work into it. Like, you can't just sit there and expect to storm the competition if you play like once a month, right? But literally, I'm at Gen Con. It's 2016, I think. And I saw Klask at Gen Con, and I sat down and played, and I think I played with Christian, actually. And Christian was like, "Hey, you're pretty good at this game. You want to play in our tournament tonight?" And I was like, "No, I ain't going to play in a tournament and pay money to do something where I just learned it like 5 minutes ago." He's like, "Oh, no, it's free." So like, all right, I'll be there. I showed up to the tournament, went undefeated, won. And so then they were like, "Hey, we're having the United States Championship this weekend on Saturday. If you're in town, we'll give you the wild card spot." So I went into that playing and quite freaking nervous because they said that, whoever wins this, we're going to fly to Denmark for the first world champion. I had never been to Europe at this point in time in my life. So I'm kind of nervous. Like, this is pretty cool to me. And then I end up meeting Daryl Howe in the finals. I think we're both undefeated. I won the first game. He won the first game. I came back and won the second game, and then we took it to a 5-5 final game point, and he beat me by one ball. And Daryl, if you don't know anything about Daryl's actually, I don't know if he's still playing like competitively in the scene, but he's a guy that's actually I would almost say like a founding father of like the Klask community. I think he brought it into his office at the time at Buffalo Games. He's the guy that came up with him and his team at the time came up with a lot of the terminology that we use, like biscuits and angels, I think are the two biggest ones. So that's a little bit on Daryl. But after that, we went out to dinner. And they invited me out on convention tour. They're like, "Hey, we think you're good for the game, and would you like to do some conventions with us and kind of tour around?" So I did. And then it was time to do the world championship. I went into the championship. This is kind of a super Cinderella story. And we did the qualifications match. And you know how when you're qualifying in the round robins, it goes by how many, if you're tied for wins, it goes by how many goals you scored, and then how many goals you allowed, right? So I lost all my games but one in the qualifiers. So I was in the knockout round to get into the knockout rounds. And so I had to go up against the guy from Sweden for like a tiebreaker, and we had the same amount of wins, which was one, the same amount of goals, but I had one fewer goal scored against me, and that qualified me into the next round, which you know how competition works. Last place plays first place. And so I had to go in against Asger at the time.
Oh,
Asger, Biscuit Wizard, which at the time, and he still is, he's a very good player, but at the time he was easily one of the top 3 players. And so I actually thought I was going to lose. And so I just started drinking. And so I just had some drinks because I was like, what the hell? I'm just going to have some drinks. I'm going to enjoy myself. Like, I'm having a horrible game and I'll just enjoy it. Well, then what ends up happening, I think that just kind of loosened me up, and I got out of my own head and started doing those push-ups and everything to kind of clear my mind. And I took them down, and then from there, down the competition. I don't think I lost a single game after that. And now I'm here.
So was that 2017?
It was 2017. So 2016, I met the guys, and then I kind of went on the tour or circuit with them for basically a year before they actually had the first world championship.
Definitely a Cinderella story on that comeback. I remember you telling me that story once before, and it was just insane to just be like, screw it, I'm done with this kind of, and then to literally just kind of dominate there at the end. One of the best parts about that story, David and I were actually discussing prior to getting online with this interview, was your push-ups before the match. and how you like really got zoned in with that. Very clever maneuver.
Hey, hold on. There's some people yelling at me. Oh, there's some people asking about the car. I'm doing a podcast right now. This is yeah. You guys want to say hi real quick? Hey guys, we're gonna say hi to our neighbors in New York.
Should say hi.
So
hey.
we play this game called Klask, and I'm one of the professional players. So we're doing an interview. Klask, Klask. All right, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Well, there we go. If that wasn't a freaking plug, that's kind of why I wanted to do this on the streets of New York in the car. I thought that we could get some cool interactions like that.
Yeah, well, it obviously worked really well. It was awesome.
So, the push-ups.
Yeah, push-ups.
So the push-ups. So we that actually goes back to high school. So when I was in high school, I used to be really big into theater and drama and everything. I got to plug my old drama teacher, Ron Mindakowski, over at Western High School in Auburn. He would always say, like, if you're nervous going into a show or anything, that before you jump on stage, just do 10 push-ups. And you'd be amazed at how calming that is on your nerves, just to get the blood flowing and get some of that pent up pressure, or I wouldn't necessarily say aggression, but I think it's huge, because especially when you're playing at the higher levels in class, it is nerves is the number one biggest thing. Number one,
Absolutely.
guys. I mean, skill is definitely need to be there, but someone with skill will be taken down by someone with nerves.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that, and it's a very interesting tip.
So
Getting pulled over by the fire department?
I know that's what
No,
it sounds like.
They there's been a lot of, it's New York, man. There's fire trucks and police officers all hours of the day here. It's wild.
Let's
That sounds about right.
let's segue into what the evolution of the gameplay has looked like so far. So I would say you were there in the beginning, right? And as far as just seeing how people played in 2016, and obviously yourself as a player. Now it being 2020 and over the next couple weeks, I mean, how has the gameplay changed in your eyes?
All right. So, yeah, the play is definitely evolutionized, I feel, because before, the original boards that we had, they were all the same size, except for the hole was a little bit smaller. So the hole that I won the world championship on, that one was a little smaller, and it made for a different type of play. I think they widened it 2 millimeters in the new boards, and that really does make a huge difference, because moves sector that we shot over in Finland, we made some cool moves, like the back swipe is when you're guarding and your Klask or whatnot, and then you back swipe against to the back wall so that it won't go in your Klask if it does go towards the Klask, but ultimately you're trying to regain control of that ball. And that was a huge move in 2017 with the smaller hole, because it was harder for those balls to stay in the hole. And now with the bigger holes, it's more likely that they will go in the hole and stay if you do that. So you can't be as just willy-nilly and wild with it. That's one. Another one is you're seeing players nowadays in the World Cup, especially, set up plays, like they're kind of like deking. Mm-hmm. They're passing to themselves off of the side of the board. They're doing like one-timers to themselves, getting really defensive moves. The Italians have done a great job breaking down the game itself, so that they have some of the angles broke down. I did that with my original board, where I drew out the angle on a square grid for the angles, to be practicing my angles, to learn, like, all right, if I want it to go generally here, where do I have to hit it? Outside of that, I really think that it's just come to a lot of players being more aware aware, like the community has grown. So there's more people playing. So that presents more opportunity for people to play others. Like Chris, I know you play a lot. And I know, David, I know you play a lot, but you guys weren't playing a couple years ago. And once you get to those higher levels of class play, it's really tough to find someone that can challenge you on a consistent basis. Now that the community is growing, more people are getting there. And I think that's a huge thing that has ultimately led to the development of play and some of these advanced things we're seeing.
Absolutely agree with that. Would you say, have maybe you guys have looked into this, but have you guys really? When I say you guys, I mean you work really closely with Klask on a consistent basis. So it's kind of when I
Right?
say that, I'm referring to you and the Klask team themselves. Have you guys kind of defined play style, defensive biscuit player type thing?
Yes, we again, and this is actually good promotion for these advanced play technique videos that we have, because we talked over some of these different play styles where you have like a high guard, a mid guard, and like a back guard. And we're actually talking about we're using a lot of these terms, which is nice because we haven't had like a vocabulary or a dictionary. It's like any language. If a language isn't written, it's always going to constantly be changing, and it's really hard to build or rally a community around that. I mean, think of a village, right? Like, imagine if the language wasn't written and everyone just kind of did or said whatever they wanted to. It'd be hard for that community to grow. So these
Well, I
advanced
think
play tactics, we're talking about some of these different play styles and such.
well, I think that's going to
So
be
where would a player find this video?
I think they're going to be released after the first of the year. They're still in editing a little bit. We shot some in studio, some out of a studio, and so these will be coming out after the first of the year, I believe. And
Very cool.
this will be pretty cool because there's like breakdowns of the moves. It's still kind of it's a little bit more than basic. Like we have the basic rules, then we have the advanced play, and we have it broken up into sections. So like serves, offense, defense, attacking, and those are the four main not styles, but like four main facets of play we've identified: attacking, defending, serving, and of course, biscuits. Biscuits,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Would you say with
you
2.0 biscuits? Oh, sorry. I was going to ask you. Are you?
I was just gonna add in. Go ahead.
You go. Good to take it.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna add that, for all you Klask players out there, if these videos are up by the time that this video does launch, I will include those in the description for you to click on.
Oh, sweet. That'd be good. That's one thing worth mentioning too when you talk about we talked earlier, the development of play. Biscuit play had come a long, like back when I won, it was really only Asger and I that were the main biscuit players. Asger more so than me, definitely. But between the two of us, really developing that biscuit play with the original biscuits, but then and coming up with some really cool, like we both come and coined some really cool moves, like Asger with the pickup, with the firing squad, where you're coming to the front and attacking the magnets right off the front of the line. I know Asger's got like the sling or the slingshot. So, but now with the Biscuit 2.0s, man, biscuit play needs to be no longer. It didn't have to be part of your game. Like you could just get rid of them before, and you could survive other ways. Now, if you are not a biscuit player, you are not going to be playing at levels.
I agree 100% with that. 2.0 has changed that for sure. For the better, I think.
Yeah. Because I play the biscuit. It's fun because there's more than, unlike air hockey, right? Air hockey, there's one way to score a point, and I think that's like the cool thing about Klask is there's essentially two ways you can score points on your opponent by being an aggressor with a goal and with the biscuits. But then there's three ways that you can score points from player mistakes, which is losing control, going in your class, and just getting two biscuits caught on you that maybe were unintentional biscuits that weren't attack shots.
Yeah, no, which and
Because
really,
that's the thing too. Check this. I want to real comment quickly on this too with the biscuit play. Like biscuit play has come so far along. Like we're getting to the point now, especially with these 2.0 biscuits being rounder and a little shorter and just moving faster. People can now use these biscuits to hit the ball to either regain control or cause like mayhem board with the to deflect it and everything. So again, I just cannot stress how important they are to be practicing with those.
absolutely, I agree. The 2.0 biscuits have definitely changed gameplay. I think we saw it a lot with the 2019 championships, world championships. Those games are a lot more entertaining and a lot more um, chaotic, but in a controlled way with the biscuit play. I mean, if you can't
in a quarter of a mile, left turn onto
crazy.
FDR Drive.
You know, it's the thing that was interesting as from an announcer perspective, like being in the booth and trying to announce the games with the Biscuit 2.0s, the sexy biscuits, is the game is so much faster now. Like I'm always 3 plays behind. So it's like that's something I'm going to be working on this year is also like my commentate or commenter or commentating or shoutcasting, I think it's called in the game world, to be a better shoutcaster or commentator. Because now that the game is so fast, it's kind of like we need to talk about other things besides what, just like let people watch the game and maybe make some comments about a few of the things. I'm like, oh, that was a great shot or whatever, but be talking about more of the community or things behind the scenes with the individual players and such. So that's something I'm going to be working on because from an announcer perspective, the 2.0 biscuits are just hard to keep up with and keep a steady flow going where you're consistent and not 4 plays behind.
Yeah, so I guess it's a really great time to segue to another question that kind of had, and that is, so we saw the change this year in the U.S. from the 1.0 to the 2.0 biscuits, and
Yeah.
that leads to questions such as, is there other changes that you are aware of that players can expect soon, specifically changes that will be introduced to competitive play?
Um, well, the one thing that I know people have seen, and I don't know exactly how much, I don't think there's anything like super secret, but I don't know if the guys would want me saying anything to either get people excited and then bummed out. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut a little bit. But the one thing I know that they've been kind of showing is that plexiglass that the with the sides so that the biscuits don't come off as much. There's talk whether that should be added to play or not because it's really nice for bar. If you're at a bar or a public gathering, so that you're not losing them because they do a really good job containing it. So the biscuits sometimes they do fall off, but I think that's going to be something that is definitely going to need to be discussed. Whether it's going to be of tournament play or if that's something that's just part of casual play.
Yeah,
Other
which
than that,
I think is a great topic on its own.
and other than that, I don't know of anything else that would come into play. One thing that I would like to see actually done is I would like to see a new ball be made, and the reason being because I would like it to have just like a couple of stripes on the ball so that you can see if the ball is spinning. With the ball being one color, you can't really see if the ball is spinning at all. And sometimes that spin can make a difference whether you need to like try to save one from going in Klask or maybe on some of your offensive shots as well.
Yeah, I know a lot of players will actually put dots on their balls for practice just so they can see some of that spinning while they're practicing certain maneuvers or defenses. So it's a great idea. I mean, introduce something like a soccer ball pattern even.
Proceed about 5 miles on the
Yeah,
third
yeah.
freeway.
That even that would work. Some lines or like some dots, like you said.
So I guess it's more of the physical changes that might be expected sometime in the future. What about competitive rules? I know the rule book is going to continue to be a growing thing, just like in any other sport like tennis. I think it would be, for instance, just this year in 2019 in the World Championship, a player lose control of their striker, and as another player went to go grab it, they lost control of their striker, and there was a pause of identifying which way that scores. In the past, I've seen it scored to the person who had control last. I think in this case, it might have went to the person who lost control um, first. I forgot what the rule actually ended up being called. It might have been a reserve actually.
Yeah.
Are these type of things really being looked at and added to the current rule books for competitive play?
Yeah, I definitely think that we need to. Second.
Definitely drive first, get to the right place, and
Okay, all right. I'm still good. Exit 17 to toll. All right. Yeah, we're still good. Yeah, there's the rule book, like you said, Teacup, is always going to be constantly evolving. We're always going to continue to see things that happen that you can't just expect or identify that are going to be anomalies to things. But the main thing is just working with the community to either debate these and also discuss them, and maybe forming like a rules committee. I think that should be something that rules committee. It was Daniel Lilly from the WKF, myself, and Daniel Fiacchini, who really pioneered what the rules are today for tournament play. Not to take any credit away from anyone else, but we sat down and we wrote those rules out, and we spent a lot of time scenarios that could happen and what was the most fair and all of that jazz. So I think that that's something that needs to be a forever ongoing process. And I don't think there's any new rule developments being talked about, to my knowledge, that would affect gameplay. If anything, it's going to be more of these really slightly situational things that you speak of, to help identify or help the refs out, essentially, or when calling a game. Like one that I saw is when someone loses control of their striker, and then the other guy goes to grab it, but also lose control of the striker, and they just, like, the strikers, they just pick up each other's striker on the other side of the board, and it's like, what do you do? Like, I think because they both lost control, but then they got each other's strikers, so like. Because in this instance, I personally would say either you continue playing, which is kind of cool, or you reserve the point, which I think is more professional. I don't know.
Yeah, I would almost let play continue in that way. But I would agree more so with you on that. But
I think that's more the Klask style too. It's a little off the cuff.
Yep, exactly. So, I guess a quick a thing too for anyone listening is, if you have input on some rules that you would like to see in the rule books, I think this is a great opportunity with Klask Pro and what we're doing here is with the community to just leave comments below with some of the rules you would like to see or maybe haven't seen. And perhaps this is something as a community we can grow into a future book, because I think that's going to be really important for what happens in the World Championships going forward in any other competitive tournaments. So,
Yeah,
it's definitely, for me, I would say my ultimate favorite topic right now with Klask is the rules and where it's going to end up with competitive play. Just to ensure everything rolls smoothly. Luckily, scenarios like you kind of mentioned happen so rarely that it's not a big deal, but still it's enough to where it can change a game depending on the situation.
While we're addressing the community and talking about rules, can I kind of introduce a similar topic, maybe, to even hear like your take on, boys, as players?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so like something I feel is very important to class or any sports is organization. In order to grow anything, you need to be organized. It's something that we were trying to do with the USK WKF, which I think we did a pretty good job. And we still have a lot of those things set up ready to, I should say set up, but that was, I think, a really crucial part in kind of exposure and the community parts. And so I think that while we're on the topic of rules, I'd like to hear from you guys, like as players, what would you think needs to come from organization part of it, because that rules is going to come down to setting up or having organizations like a class club. I know Teacup, you're still running the Pacific Northwest in the Ollie Class Club. So it's like, what do you guys want to see from an organizational standpoint as players, so that the rules can continue to grow and the community can grow as well?
Well, I guess real quick, just from my point of view on that, I think the biggest thing that I would love to is so real quick, just to say before this is what I think you and Daniel and you guys did with the WKF and the USKA was definitely brilliant. It was great. I personally don't think I would have got into the competitive scene of Klask for a few months, if not a year later than I did, if it was not for the USKA. And the reason why is because it made competitive play the focus. And so when you found it and looked into it, competitive play was the forefront of the topic, meaning it was really easy to see what other players were doing and seeing where you could go to compete. And I think that would be the biggest thing going forward to see is a landing page. Even Klask themselves can do that would be more focused on just competitive play of Klask, and eventually a ranking would be really helpful, but that's probably something that could happen more down the road. But for me, it would just be a landing page for people to go, hey, here's Klask competitive play. This is what other players, first of all, who other players are, where they're at playing, and then easy access to things such as the rules, um, and just kind of all of that. Because I think the biggest thing for any person getting into the competitive class right now is, where do I compete, and what does the competitive scene even look like? Especially on a semi-local level for the U.S., which I have a question a little bit later about. But that's kind of my view. How about you, David? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I always look at things kind of 2 point of views. I look at it on the one end where Klask is the game, but it's also a business. And when you think about the rules, and when you read the USKA, it can be extremely overwhelming for somebody who picks up a game at Target. So I think that's why the company has simplified it. And there's always that exception of, if you go into competitive play, these are the other things that you need to think about. And we're not going to put this into a retail game. However, yeah, just like Chris, reiterated, I think that just like any other sports out there, when we look at things like basketball, football, tennis.
Hey, let's real quick, not to interject, but I'm interjecting. Let's make it like it's Bowie and Teacup. So let's just get that straight. Like that, those are we gotta keep on track with calling each other Kev, Bowie, and Teacup, because those are like our on-air personality names. So
sounds good. So yeah, I mean, going back to that, I think that if we look at all the other sports that are out there, and we treat it like this in a competitive play, then let's figure out a way for somebody who is actually serious and competitive in class to play regional games and earn themselves a spot in a national championship or in the world championship, based off of the fact that maybe they didn't have a good game on one game, but they won first place on every other tournament that there was in their region. So they've earned a ranking in a top spot to compete. Because I can certainly tell you that most of those, world champion players that competed this year, any given time could probably beat the number one person. But how many times does it take to get to that point? So yeah, I mean, as of right now, how it's set up, it's kind of you either you execute on your one chance that you get for the year, or you don't.
Okay. Teacup, you and I talked about that when briefly in when I was in PAX Unplugged there, remember? So we were talking about a system so that basically not only do you get points or whatever for participation, which is important, but also, you know, kind of like ranking as Bowie's talking about, where that way it's not an all or nothing thing when you're traveling X amount of distance for a tournament, because that could kind of be deflating. It's like travel 500 miles for a tournament and have it rely upon one game, and then you're like, ah, oh, shit.
Definitely deflate. That actually occurred to me when I traveled to Colorado to play. I put kind of a lot of mental stake into really taking Colorado down, and I definitely failed on a mental state and didn't play nearly as well as I should have. But it was definitely a bummer afterwards, going, wow, it came all this way, and I just failed so miserably. And unfortunately, in those situations, outside of experience, you gain nothing else, which ultimately was fine for the situation. But it was like, oh man, I wish there was something more here. And actually, Kevin, since we talked, I've actually since developed the point system that my personal club, Oli Klask Club, is going to use.
Awesome.
So we're going to try to roll that out in January. We figured the new year is the right time to do it, but the club will utilize this point system to rank our inner club players, and this way, even if someone wins a couple of our club tournaments, it doesn't necessarily mean they're rated the number one player. It definitely will help their cause, but it won't necessarily lead directly to you are number one. There will be a lot of different pieces into the puzzle for that. And I actually took a lot of inspiration from how the tennis community rates their players. Like you can have someone win a major championship within the year, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're number one yet, because maybe they only won one of four of them or something. So I'm excited about that.
You know,
hopefully it will help lead into other things.
You know, that would be cool if we got that in the community, like in the clubs or whatever. I think a club packet like Daniel and I originally was trying to do, but we just didn't have all of the resources necessary to, would be great. So that if anyone wants to start a club, they can, and then just get playing. But if we have that point system like we're talking about, I think it would be really cool, because going back to my story of Klask, like what I love about it is that anyone can just jump in and play. Like I had never seen the game before, and I was maybe a little bit naturally good at it, but I was able to take it somewhere and take it beyond just being a hobby for me, and into kind of somewhat of a I don't know if I want to use the word career. I think that's kind of strong, but lifestyle, I guess. Let's say lifestyle.
Choice. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, if anything, that should serve as inspiration to people. Like, hey, here's something you can sit down, and if you just play this one little board game, you can like go see the world. And so if we have that point system now to tie full circle, I think it would be really cool to reward some certain players with a spot to the some of their contributions. That, like, say for example, then you have someone that maybe even didn't place well. They're not a good class. Well, that never mind. I'm going to redact that statement, because I think that would be kind of offensive to the good class players. Someone that wasn't good but just went to all the classmates, that they automatically get one. Like maybe you go to all of them, and because of your points, you get an invite to go and hang out with the global class community and the elites.
Be welcomed into the crowd, which I think is a good move. I mean, it's almost.
Because I think. Sorry, continue, Chris, or Teacup.
Oh, I was going to say, because I think in the case of rewarding someone just for their efforts in the community, necessarily not the trip like a champion will get, but an invitation to be welcomed into the tournament as a guest, I think is great, just because it allows someone kind of like a super fan of, let's say, like the Star Wars films or something, where like you've done nothing directly to make the films what they are, but you're such a fan and you hype it so much that maybe you get invited to the opening night in LA or something, right? So I think that kind of stuff would reward the community and help grow Klask not only on a player level but also for a fan level, because that's another thing that we haven't touched base on today. Maybe in a future episode we can add this topic. But how do we captivate fans, and how do we get them involved? Like, maybe they're not the best players and they know that and they're okay with that. The same way you won't see me on an NFL field, but I love football. How do we get fans to want to cheer and find players to follow? And things like this, it would be part of that would be maybe getting them invites to these events by just their contributions through fandom too. So anyway, there's a lot of words to say. I agree with you, Kev.
Yo, Kev.
Yeah, I think because I think like you guys haven't seen it yet. Bowie, you got a little taste of it in Gen Con. In terms of like the community, but the players and just kind of like it's not just a party, but it really is. It's a family. Everyone's super cool. Everyone's long, and it really is. We got this global family now. Like, I travel around the world now, and I can just like hit up different Klask associations on the Facebook or Webernet, and people are down to play, but just like crash on couches. Let you. People just inherently know, like, if you're a Klask player, you're pretty cool. So I think it should be every Klask player's kind of goal, kind of like a pilgrimage. I think it should be a pilgrimage to come to the World Championships as if you are a Klask player, like, just come view them and see them, because we do, like, when you get there, you arrive, there's, you get your hotel and the people are playing Klask, but then either on that night or the night after, we throw sauna party, and everyone just gets Finland wild. But we have it like we're on Sauna Island this year. Just everyone's kind of naked running around, and this sounds weird. This probably sounds weird, but let me tell you. I'm going to tell you something, guys. Like, the Finns have a way better body positivity, like, image and just whatever about them than we do in America. And I just think it's so cool, number one. And two, yeah, there were that didn't go naked in the sauna on the island with everyone, and that's great. That's everyone's choice, and no one made fun of them or anything like that. But there was still a difference in the relationship of those people, because the Finns, I just spent the 7 weeks in Finland, so I got a little bit of Finnish culturally, but they have this saying that goes, everyone is the same in sauna. And what that means is, whether you're the CEO of a company or the janitor, everyone's the same, because there's nothing to hide behind. You're completely naked and vulnerable, and so you can't hide behind your power suit. You can't get made fun of because you got the mop in your hands, type deal. And it's just a really cool thing. And I think America, in a way, and maybe even other countries, need that, man. Finland is cool in that sense. It's really, it's an experience that any Klask player's got to do. Honestly, it's that cool. It's my favorite country that I've been. I've been to 39 countries now. It's my favorite.
I'm shooting for that experience there in 2020 World Championship.
Hey, I'd love to have you there. These there's a game we play in Helsinki, and it's kind of a secret game, so I can't tell you like how it's played.
In the sauna?
It's in the sauna, yeah. So I can't tell you any more than its name, but it's called Sauna Golem, or Sauna Klunku. Klunku is Golem in Finnish. And I actually got a tattoo of this game while I was in Finland last year, because that was the one thing to me that really summed up the trip. So you guys get there, or any of you other players listening, you guys are on a Gollum life, and in Scandinavian life as well. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
It seems like internationally, whenever I watch players, the international game seems way larger. It just seems like there's a lot more people playing, and there's a lot more people more interested in watching the game than I see in the U.S.
Well, can I break that down for a second for you, Bowie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
so
it's a great opportunity to compare U.S. Klask play to other countries. It's a great time to do it.
first and foremost, Italy, with behind the leading force of Daniel Fiacchini, is leading the charge. Like, they are doing some really cool things and have set some things up. They're really involved. They're really passionate. But I mean, what else would you expect from an Italian? You know, they even their language is a very passionate language. Um, let's think about this. Like, let's think about wise. So the U.S. is about roughly the same size as Europe, let's say. I'm not a geologist or whatever, so don't quote me on it. But in my mind, it's kind of the same. And you have all these nations, whereas we have states. So as a country, the United States, we're very separated in comparison to these other countries. And especially with this sport being small scale right now, where everyone's just kind of like a hobbyist paying their own way and everything. Yeah, it's a lot cheaper to get to the tip of Italy in the north to the tip of Italy in the south. Whereas, like, if you're in Maine and your last chance to qualify for the U.S. Championship or World Championship, whatever, is in California, like, that's 2,000 miles, man.
Right.
That's like you know, a Finnish player traveling down to the. Oh man, now it's really challenging my geography. Let's say a northern Finnish player in Lapland. I gotta get on my turn here. A northern Finnish player from Lapland traveling to the southern tip of Italy to play. You know, where it's also remote because um, in just the time too, like your time to travel to those events. So that's why I think we in the United States are trailing everyone. I want to say everyone else, but why we're trailing in that sense.
You know, Kev, with that said, I seriously could not agree with you more. That's one thing I try to think about and come up with solutions to constantly. I mean, I run the club here in Olympia for Klask, and we do pretty well within our own circle. But I constantly, I travel quite a bit, not a ton, but quite a bit, as much, throughout the year. And every time I travel somewhere, I'm throwing a message out there to someone like, "Hey, any players near here? Let's play." And it's always like, for instance, I was in California just a month ago, and I went to the class group for United States Klask, and on Facebook, and put in. Someone got back to me and said, "Hey, I'm here. We should try to meet up." And I looked on the map, and it was like going to be a 4.5 hour drive, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Dude, I can't. Like, I'm gonna have to rent a car." And I didn't rent a car for this trip, and that
yeah,
constantly happens where, especially you look in smaller communities like Italy. Definitely, I agree, leading the charge in not only competitive play, but also in media. They do a great job with their Klask related media on social and things like that. But I look at that, and they're condensed as far as they can play each other a lot more often. They're not
yeah.
traveling as far to do it. Whereas um, competitive players in the U.S., I mean, you might get a couple great players per state, and between those states is very difficult to actually meet up and get play in.
Podcast. Hello.
Yeah,
You guys, are we
I
good?
think you should have answered. And
We're good.
can you hear? Can you see us and everything?
Yep. We're back to good.
Yeah, good. So anyway, that's what my view on the U.S. having this a little bit more of a difficult time to compete, but um, we're resourceful, I think, so we make do, and we do have a lot of great players in the U.S. We just need to play on bigger stages more often, I think will be key to our success going forward.
Not only that, but more often too, like you just said, Chris, for you to go I mean, you're at the upper level of the Klask game yourself and Bowie. So for you guys to get a decent Klask match in, unless you guys have some challengers in your club, it's really grow your game without doing that travel. And we all got day jobs at this point. No one's
right
only a professional Klask player. So like, so you got to travel 4 hours to go get a match in where, maybe someone in Poland or whatever has to travel less than that or by high-speed train because they got better methods of travel over there as well. Or you're like Tomek and his wife is actually really good who has qualified before as well. And so they just get to play every day. So it's like the best players are, and then hey, that's actually check this out. So I just made that comparison. Yarrow was last year's world champion, and him and Diana are a couple. And Tomek it was this year's world champion, and him and his wife are obviously a couple, and they play. So like, there's something to that.
Yeah, and don't forget this year's U.S. champion either. I mean,
yeah, look at that, Jason Boyd. So maybe this is a couples game. Maybe that's maybe we just discovered something. Like the secret to being a good Klask player is to find a chick that can play Klask with you.
You heard it here first, folks. The secret
in your Tinder profile.
Do you even Klask?
If that's not a T-shirt by the end of this month, I'm gonna be depressed.
Wait. Either that, or it's like, or Tinder profile is like, I'm gonna put it in your hole, class.
That should only be swipes right.
But don't put it in mine. In the morning, I'm gonna make you biscuits and gravy.
Ooh.
Spitting game.
Spitting a lot of game.
Actually, I might maybe as like a fun joke, I'll change my profile to like on Tinder a picture of a Klask board, and I as like a comment thing, I will make a Klask Tinder profile. Like what would the board game say about itself in a Tinder profile? I think that could be kind of fun, actually.
That would be great.
Two biscuits and a striker. You get swipes to the right all day long.
All day long.
Yeah, the Klask strikers stop swiping like Quagmire on Family Guy. Shit.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, I hope to see this screenshot soon.
Yo, they don't forget the I don't know if that's a feature on Tinder. Never mind. People
what
in
were
New
you
York
thinking of?
Pissed. Those horns.
Oh, that's great. Hey, so Kevin, just more for you. On a personal level with competitive Klask, are you still hoping to start competing in more tournaments? Or are you kind of now just going to sit there and control the structure of Klask and its future?
I wouldn't necessarily say that I control it. Like
not control it, but help build it. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's more my role, but I've also like talked to the guys, and I don't want to spill the beans, but I do have a plan to come out of retirement, and I'm not saying when or what, but there is an idea of how, when, what, and where, and we're still kicking the can around as to what would be the best, or if we're even going to do it. So at this point, I'm just going to stick behind the scenes or behind the camera or behind the board instead of under the board, and do the administration and the I guess if it was a restaurant, like a front of the house thing, like help continue to grow and be the face of it and introduce people to it.
Yeah, good.
Quarter of a mile, left turn.
From the start of meeting you, I think you've excelled in that position for sure. So I'm excited to see where it continues to grow for you. My last question that I have, I'm sure David has another one, but I have a little list here that I'm keeping. And my last question for you, Kev, is just, So we know kind of the strategy some people use. For you yourself, what would you have said prior to retirement, and maybe in the future when you are maybe not retired anymore? What was kind of the play style or strategy people use that you found to be the hardest to play against?
You know, the currently, I would say the hardest play style. I think it's kind of like your classic like Dungeons and Dragons type of dynamic where you have three characters that are a mage, an archer, and a warrior. And the idea is that a warrior takes out a mage takes out an archer, and an archer takes out a or wait, no, I think it's warrior takes out an archer, archer takes out a mage, mage takes out a warrior. I think that's how it goes. But anyway,
Paper, rock, scissors.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a paper rock scissors thing. So, there's in today's play, they it's the same way. Like, I think a very aggressive play is primarily what most people are utilizing today, and what we're seeing be successful. Like if you see and look back at a lot of the points, like I was cutting a bunch of clips up for the highlights and everything, and you see that most of the points that are scored, if you look at that footage, like actually the world championship footage, and you document the points, most of them are being scored when a player is being more aggressive versus either defensive or reactive. They're being active instead of reactive. So they're being the aggressor and making the other person react to them instead of them reacting to the other person.
Very
Player.
interesting.
Now there's always room for improvement with that, where like someone comes along and changes up the game and invents this style that no one's ever seen before, which really I would say right now is like aggressive biscuits and kind of defensive. I would say those are kind of your three styles of play. And back when I won the world championship, the aggressive play was still the one that was the big swinging dick, as they would say. But I find it hardest to defend against slow players, like someone like, because I'm playing aggressively, someone that can change the pace up on me really knocks me off my game. Like, think of golf. You're on the golf course and you're moseying around, and then you get people that are in front of you. You were playing a good, well-paced game, and now that you got more time to think and everything, it's really messing up your overall golf game.
Totally agree. I think that is the next top player probably next year, which is somebody that can just slam, and then like slow roll into a straight shot. I mean, like it's just somebody that completely unpredictable can do it both ways is going to be a super strong player.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, I know there's not like betting in the world of Klask sport yet, but man, when there is, if there was for this 2020 season, outside of putting the money on myself because got to be mentally strong, right?
Yeah.
You got to get Chris. You got to get through me first too, as well. Remember that.
Oh, we got a little trash going between Bowie and Teacup. What do you know?
I'm just kidding, man. David's one of the best players I've ever played. I love playing. Our games are always incredible. They were good for sure. And now that we have those 2.0 biscuits, it's been a lot of fun. But basically, if I could put some bets on the Italian players, those Sharks, man, they're fun to watch and they know what they're doing. Was Filippo Ballin? Yeah, that guy, man. I thought for sure he was taking the 2019 season, so it was crazy when he got eliminated. And then he's already, I think he's already won to qualify for the 2020 championship.
Yeah, he did that, and he's been the first one to qualify because he won the Essen tournament.
Yeah, so right out of the gate he's ready to go again, so I'm excited to see what happens there. And this is another thing I'm excited, by the way. It's our second episode, so I think it's important too to shout out to the people watching one of the exciting things about what we're doing with Klask Pro is maybe introducing listeners to some players that they didn't know existed yet. For instance, like Ballin and obviously us three all competing, and like behind David there with the screen, you see some of these players that you might not have heard of otherwise. So hopefully we can get them involved with Klask Pro and introduce listeners to those.
Absolutely.
Guys too. So yeah, cool. David, do you have any other questions? I'm curious.
Well, I had a pretty good conversation with Kev a couple days ago, and I know he's got some stuff going on right now where he's not only working on the class marketing and getting it out there and getting the word out there, but tell the listeners about all the other stuff that you got going on and put your plug in.
Well, so I got hold on, I'm waiting for my GPS to shut up here. There we go. So yeah, you guys know that the number 2 is a very important number to me. Back when I was engaged, the plan was to get married on 2/22/22, which just so happens to be, which would be February 22nd, 2022, which just so happens to be on what day of the week?
I'm gonna go with the second day of the week.
No, on a Tuesday.
That's the second day of the week.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean there. I didn't understand. I thought you meant like the second week of the month. That's how it registered in my brain, was the second week of the month. I was like, dude, it's the 22nd of the month. Come on, get your head out of your ass. Right. Yeah, so literally it's a Tuesday. It's the only Tuesday that'll ever happen in history. So on that date, I've decided, because I've gotten into sailing, I'm gonna set sail for 2 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, and 2 days. And right now I'm an inexperienced sailor, and so without even looking at the charts, the plan is to kind of try and sail to Finland for the 2022 Klask World Championship as well. Leading up to that, on January 1st of this year, we are launching kev.com. You can look it up on all the social medias, your Snapchats, your Twitters, your Instagrams. Kev, just Kev. I think on almost all platforms, even on Facebook. A lot of it is blank because we're doing a big push to generate content now for a big release after the first of the year. So we are heading out to St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, to signify taking the big leap and just going skydiving to make the big jump, as we're saying.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, Klask listeners, it looks like we have lost Kev on the road. I hope he is safe. I'm assuming that reception has just gone away for him. And
that, or he got pulled over and has to explain to the cop, I was not texting and driving, I was podcasting and driving.
I didn't even think about that. Well, at least he wasn't drinking, so.
Amen. Yes.
Cool. Well, hey, everybody, our links for our social media websites will be down below. So please like us, subscribe. We have an Instagram. We have Facebook page, Facebook group. I even made a, what is it called? What's that page where you can watch things live?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about Twitch.
I don't know if we're going to be doing anything on Twitch, but it's there. Klask Pro is on there.
In case we decide to.
So
yeah, seriously, guys, this is a brand new, not only to the community, but for us. We really want to grow Klask, both as an activity for players, but also for fans to enjoy the people who are currently playing on competitive levels. So if you have any questions for us, comments, all that stuff, put it below. We're going to read those. We're going to probably do short videos in and out with answering some of those questions. And we're excited to see mostly what Klask Pro can do with the Klask community as competitive play grows and as the game becomes even more popular, not only around the world, but especially here in the States.
Cool. All right. Peace out, everybody. We're out.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Disturbing the peace with some peace of mind. Sleeping in jeans, I'ma need a night. OD on the cheap advice. OC on the cheapest flight. Lately I've been on the move trying to get to something. But I told her I've been running just to see the sights, see the lights in and out.